Hello everybody, welcome back to Screen Stars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2013 action horror film Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters, a film that is written and directed by Tommy Wirkola, and it stars Jeremy Renner, Gemma Arterton and Famke Janssen. Now this film tries to answer the question of what happened to Hansel and Gretel when they grew up. Now, the film starts with the story that we all know of Hansel and Gretel going into the house made of candy, being fattened up by the witch, and then managing to kill the witch and escape. And then the film really heavily focuses on them as adults, the brother and sister, who have now become witch hunters and have spent many years honing their skills and killing many witches. They are then hired by a local village who fear that their village/town is being preyed upon by witches, and there may well just be a grand witch out there that has a specific plan in mind for Hansel and Gretel and has a direct link to their past. Right, what are my thoughts on Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters? Well, I fairly recently picked this film up. I showed this off fairly recently in one of my Blu-ray collection updates. I don't know if it was the last one or the one before, but fairly recently. It's a film that I obviously was aware when it came out. I thought it did much worse than it actually did. When I looked at the figures here, it made well over 200 million on something like, I'm not sure, was it a 60 or 70 million dollar budget? So it wasn't what you would consider a blockbuster, but it probably made a tidy profit, I would suggest. But I remember it kind of just sailing under the radar. It didn't get high praise by many or anything like that. And the concept sounded a bit daft to me at the time. However, I've heard a few good things about the film since, so I decided to take a punt on it and see what I thought. And I have to say, after watching this film, I was very pleasantly surprised by it. It was fun. The special effects were excellent. The performances were interesting, and didn't have an issue with them at all. The action scenes were very well put together, and it was delightfully gory as well. It was far more adult than I expected it to be. It's full of swearing and curse words, obviously, which I don't have a problem with. I just didn't expect it. I thought it was going to be a little bit tamer, but no, they've actually gone full on with this one. You get exploding limbs and bodies everywhere. You get limbs chopped off. You get blood. You get guts. You get gore. Heads blown off. It really doesn't hold back on the gore side of it, which I didn't expect, and it was a really pleasant surprise. There was some actually really good chemistry between Jeremy Renner and Gemma Arterton, who play Hansel and Gretel. I liked their performances, I liked their characters, they were likeable. There was a lighter side, certainly, to Hansel. Gretel was a little bit more serious. She was kind of the brains of the operation, even though she could kick ass at the same time. And they had some really cool weapons. You remember the Van Helsing film with Hugh Jackman years ago that, to be fair, I haven't seen for a long time, but I remember being quite disappointed with that film. This feels in tone a little bit like that film, and there's some weaponry in it that reminded me very much of the Van Helsing film. But this film took itself a little bit more seriously than Van Helsing, and the effects were certainly better than Van Helsing. And I really liked it. We also get Peter Stormare in this film, who you'll recognise. He's been in countless films. He's been in Bad Boys, he's been in Armageddon, John Wick. Usually plays a bad guy, and he usually plays him pretty damn well. And he does again in this film. He plays a really dislikable character. And Famke Janssen, who I've been fairly critical of these last couple of years, is actually pretty good in here. She plays like the Grand Witch, Muriel, and she's really menacing and looks the part as well, in regards to the makeup that she's got. And this film does what this film does really well. It blends seamlessly practical effects and CGI effects, because the witches, for the most part, looked to me like they were all made up practically, and then CGI was seamlessly seamed in around it and stuff. And there's a troll in the film as well that I thought was nicely animated. Yeah, and I liked it. Now, the main criticism here that I could give this film, probably many people could give this film, is it's fairly formulaic. It's laid out in a blueprint or a map that you would expect the film to follow, and you can kind of tick it off as you go, as the film goes on. You know what I mean? The reveal, if you like, at the end, the family mystery as to, you know, why they were left in the woods when they were children by their mother and father. That reveal is a little bit underwhelming. Why the Grand Witch Muriel is after, particularly Gretel, is a little bit underwhelming. You know, you couldn't really call them twists, really. They weren't really that effective. And there's other things as well. It's one of those films that if you pulled at threads on it, you know what I mean, the plot holes will appear bigger and bigger as they go on. You know what I mean. The fact that, you know, they've killed arguably over 600 witches, and, you know, they know very little about white witches, good witches, which I just found a little bit hard to believe. In regards to the film. So yeah, there are some issues with it, and yes, it's definitely formulaic, but it's fun formulaic, and I had a good time watching this film. I watched it with my wife, and we both were pleasantly surprised by this one. It was great entertainment. It was nicely paced. It was fun when it needed to. It was serious when it needed to be. And I thought visually it held its own throughout. So I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I found it hugely entertaining, and if you're like me, this is one of those films that you kind of thought at the time, oh, I'll avoid this one, it doesn't look that good. Give it a go, you might be pleasantly surprised, and it's fairly cheap to pick up as well these days. So yeah, that is my review for Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. I hope you liked the review, I hope you found it useful. Thanks for watching, everybody, and of course I will be back with more reviews and content on the channel very, very soon.